Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maurice Stewart, and I'm the Director of Inclusive Excellence at Alumni Engagement at the UC Alumni Association. And my colleague, Mark.
Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Osborne. I'm the Program Director of Alumni Engagement for College of Arts and Sciences, UC Claremont, and UC Blue Ash. Thanks for
Good, good.
joining us today.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. And I want to just thank you all for joining us this afternoon for this dynamic leadership conversation. So without further ado, I'll introduce our moderator today, Tracie Williams.
Hello, everyone. I'm
Yep.
Tracie.
Yep, I'll go
I,
ahead and say your bio, Tracie. Tracie is a seasoned professional with a passion for organizational leadership and innovation in healthcare and education. She began her academic journey at UC, where she earned her undergraduate degree in organizational leadership. Tracie's affiliation with her alma mater didn't end with graduation. She has continued to contribute actively as a member of the A&S Alumni Board, enabling her to leverage her expertise and benefit current and future students. With over 2 decades of experience in the healthcare sector, Tracie is a business administrator at the UC College of Medicine, where she plays a pivotal role in ensuring the smooth operation of critical medical services. Tracie, take it away.
Thank you, Maurice. And hi, Mark. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm so grateful to be in your presence as your moderator. We are looking forward to a great time today. So I'm going to dive in. I did want to share, I consider, do I share it or do I not? When I accepted being the moderator, I was in this business administrator role, but I have transitioned out of that since then. We're not going to talk about where because that's not important, but I did want to clarify that was my most recent role that I just transitioned out of. So now we want to introduce, without further ado, if we will. Next slide. Or do we not go to this? Yeah, meet Cathy. So Cathy Bernardino Bailey. Cathy is the first woman and African American to lead the Greater Cincinnati Water Works. She earned an Associate of Applied Science degree in Chemical Technology and a Bachelor of Science degree in Chemistry from the University of Cincinnati before starting her career in water research at the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. She then transitioned to the Greater Cincinnati Water Works, where she has worked for 31 years, becoming Executive Director in 2015. Greater Cincinnati Water Works provides drinking water and stormwater services to more than 1.1 million customers in the region and is nationally known for its lead service line replacement program. Cathy is a frequent speaker at industry conferences, sharing her expertise on strategic planning, employee engagement, workforce diversity, and continuous improvement. She is a board member for several water industry organizations, including the Association of Metropolitan Water Agencies and the U.S. Water Alliance. Bailey is a 2023 National Academy of Public Administration Fellow. Cathy's work has been recognized with numerous awards, including the 2021 AWWA Individual Diversity and Inclusion Award, and the 2021 STEMIs Applied Scientist of the Year Award. In 2018, she was recognized as one of the Greater Cincinnati YWCA's Career Women of Achievement and one of the Cincinnati Venue Magazine's Women of Influence. Cathy is also active in her local community as a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority and the Women's City Club, and as a board member of Best Point, the children's home, outside of work. Cathy enjoys baking, college art, sewing, volunteering, and traveling with family and friends. Please join me in a warm welcome of Miss Cathy Bailey. Hi, Miss Cathy.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for joining us. We're excited to have you. And we are in great anticipation of what you have to share with us. We ask that everyone open your minds and your ears to what she has to pour into us today. So we're going to dive right in. Is that okay? All right. So we have quite a few questions that we want to ask and engage in our discussion. So the first one that people are curious about is how did your UC experience prepare you for your role?
Yeah, it prepared me a lot. So I grew up in Weirton, West Virginia,
Okay.
which I think modern day it's probably about 17, 18,000, residents. I don't even think it was that many when we grew up there. But the first thing, I came from Weirton to the big city, right? And so I had to figure out how to navigate the big city, the environment that I was now in. And UC definitely helped me understand that. Initially, living in Weirton, we didn't have the means for my sister or I to go to college, and so that was not really on the radar until my aunt who lived here in Cincinnati um, knew of a scholarship that I could apply for, and I got the scholarship, and that was how I got to the associate's degree program. But that was very last minute. Like, I really didn't think I was coming to college. When I say last minute, like, I took the test, found out that I had scored well and was getting the scholarship, and like a week later, I was coming
Oh, wow.
to UC. And so I arrived here in Cincinnati with everything that I had packed up in a couple cars. And and here's something interesting. Like, they had to find me a dorm room, right?
Oh,
And
wow.
and my uncle showed up with a bag of money to pay for that dorm room. Now, the money was legit, right? He just didn't like banks, but he showed up to pay for the dorm room. And I share all that because to me, that's like the beginning of this thing that any means necessary, no matter what. Like, you can figure it out and get it done. And I think that was a lot of what UC taught me. It taught me, how to navigate on my own and find an apartment and maintain that apartment and work multiple part-time jobs and go to classes and balance that class afterlife, process. It just gave me the confidence that no matter what was tossed my way, that there was a way to figure it out and um, be successful in it. Now, don't get me wrong. UC also taught me some significant partying skills. I learned the importance of a budget for a party, how to celebrate responsibly. I learned
Yeah.
no friend left behind. I learned a lot of things, but all of those things translate into me being a successful leader at this point. But UC was just very pivotal in, shaping me to the person that I am and how I lead. That all started at University of Cincinnati, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing with that. And trust me, there's no judgment. I believe in working hard and partying harder. It keeps us centered. So we're going to go on to the next question. People are wanting to know what extracurricular opportunities and research opportunities were there during school?
So not so much research during school. I worked a lot. I had, 2, 3 part-time jobs at all times. And that was either to pay for, my living expenses in an apartment that I shared with some friends, or, just to pay for some of the classes that I had along the way. I mean, I had
That was 2 to 3 jobs at one time?
Yeah, 2, 3 part-time jobs. There was sometimes I'd get up and I'd go to a job early in the morning, and then I'd come to a couple classes, and then, had maybe a couple hours in the evening to kind of just veg out a little bit, and then I'd go work at, like Fifth Third Bank in their lockbox section till like 10 o'clock at night. And then
Wow.
depending on what the schedule was the next day, I'd have to figure out when I was studying and when I was going to classes and what jobs I had there. But again, that just speaks to, like, I was trying to figure it out how to, because I had the mindset that when I got that scholarship to come here for the associates, it's like, if I can get there and get my foot in the door, then I can make something of it. And I
Absolutely.
knew that I wanted more than associates. And that came later when I really started understanding what I liked and what I didn't like as far as my studies. But I knew if I got in the door. So I knew it was going to be a long road of multiple jobs and trying to figure out different things, to help me stay there and be successful.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a lot of time for extracurricular activities. I think most of what I did probably came at that time during my sorority, where we would often tutor at Hughes High School or host different forums on campus, that kind of stuff. But it wasn't too much beyond a lot of that.
Yeah, right. You definitely wanted to make sure to remain diligent over the resources, having the
Yeah.
scholarship. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Next question. What kind of internship and co-op opportunities do you provide for students?
Yeah, so definitely here at Waterworks, we have a lot of them. In fact, we just restarted our co-op program. We had a few years in there where we weren't doing a lot of bringing a lot of co-ops in, but we just restarted that. But we have probably the most co-ops we have are in, say, the engineering division. And so that's an opportunity to understand how we plan water mains and do just some of the basic engineering work of the water system. But then probably the most that we have are at our water quality and treatment division. And so that's in the laboratory, that's at the treatment plants. And so they can learn everything from the beginning of how we take the water from the Ohio River and we treat it all the way to what we're distributing out into the system to come to the homes. So they can understand those processes, they can work in the lab, they can go take samples, they can analyze those samples, they can work on some of the projects that we have at that treatment plant. We do a lot of research in the industry, and that research is done at the treatment plant. So they can be involved in that research, they can participate in that way. Recently, we brought in a couple IT co-ops, and so we're hoping it's an opportunity for them to learn the systems that work behind the scenes of everything that we do. And so we've brought in some IT co-ops. We have some co-ops who work in our commercial division, and so sometimes they work in the call center, or they work out off-site. We're collecting samples or going to customers' homes. They can go do that. We also have co-ops that work in our communication section, so they could be posting and telling our story on social media. They might actually go out to some of our work sites and take some photos, tell our story online, write articles, participate in interviews. So we try to have it as diverse as possible. My whole thing is I'm not bringing a co-op in here to make copies or file something. That's not working for me and it's not working for them. And so I want them to have something meaningful that they're going to do, something that can either spark them to come into our industry or spark them to know more about themselves and what they like so they can make better decisions in the future. And so I'm excited that we've revamped our co-op program and we'll be doing more of that in the coming year.
Yeah, so is that exclusive to undergrad students?
So we have some high school students, we have undergrad, and then some graduate students are here.
Okay.
Too. Yeah.
Great, awesome. Okay. Can you speak to the value of your co-op experience when you were a student?
Yeah, so my co-op experience was a little interesting. You know, I co-opted Procter and Gamble, and it really was a great experience. But it also taught me what I liked and what I didn't like. I think it was during that co-op is when I really learned that I liked more of the chemistry side. And so as I left that associate's program, that's when I transitioned to main campus to then start studying chemistry to get my degree in chemistry. But that co-op experience was very valuable to me. I think probably the biggest thing for me, you know, up until that point, as I mentioned, I had all these little part-time jobs. And so it was go into this job, do this task, and go home. Like it was no really interactions with other people. But that co-op experience was interactions in a group. You know, it was team meetings. It was, do you want to go to lunch? You know, talking to people in the morning and chit-chatting, you know, at the water cooler type conversations. Like I had never experienced that on the job. And that was significant because in many ways, that's like at the heart of where you learn a lot of things on a job, right? And so I was really getting a firsthand experience of that and really appreciated it. And I think it was the first time that I had a mentor. You know, there was an African American woman there that really took to me and taught me a lot of things. And you know, this is what you wear to work. This is how you carry yourself. You know, sit back and listen to these certain type of meetings. Do you understand what they said? Ask questions. You know, like she taught me a lot and just really took to me without knowing me. She just took to me and said, hey, I'm going to help you along. And so that was my first experience of a mentor, and it really helped me in that way.
Yeah, I really like that because I have a mentor now. I actually have a couple. One that I've had for at least 15 years. And this is actually not a question, but I would like for you to talk a little bit more about the impact of having a mentor. Because I tell people all the time, I don't care how high up you climb in your career, you need a sounding board. You need someone to pour into you along the way. You can never know it all. I don't think you could ever know really enough, but I talk about how powerful it is to always have a mentor in your corner to tell you when things are good, you're making a bad decision, but how impactful, if you could talk about the impact just a little bit of having a mentor, and if you still have one today.
I do. I actually advocate more for allyship. And I do see the difference between a mentor and allyship. A mentor certainly is going to guide you and help you get, the best understanding, and can really sometimes, be that cheerleader that you need in your corner. But an ally is a whole different ballgame, right?
It is.
And an ally is in it to win it with you. And they are removing as many obstacles as they can for you. They are in the room advocating for you. They are shaping you in a way that you really didn't see coming. They really want it for you as much as you want it. And I certainly had a man that helped me in that way. And most of the time when you probably envision a mentor, you're looking for somebody who looks like you, right? And because you can relate in that way. In the water utility industry, there's not a lot of people who look like me. But I was still looking for that person that was going to look like me, that was going to help me. And that wasn't the case. My strongest ally has been a white male boss that I had years ago that just really took to me. He was actually the first boss who asked me about my family. Like, what's your family life? Do you have kids? What do you do outside of work? Like how often you go visit your family, and he wanted to know about me, and it just became a quick friendship after that. But then he was in it to win it with me. He was in rooms advocating for me. He was the one bringing up my name to say, I think Cathy can do that. I think we should support her on this. I think we should send her to this training. I think we should listen to and read the proposal that she put forward. Like, he was that type of person. But to me, that's an ally. That's somebody that's doing way more than a mentor. And that's what I try to foster here at the utility. It's like, we need to be more allies to people so that we can help them and be in the room to speak for them if other people aren't in the room.
Okay. So I think we have a lot of questions, but I'm going to, because that was a perfect segue to one of the questions that we have, and then I'll come back up to the list that we have. So what would you say has been the greatest reward you've experienced as the first African-American woman in such a prominent organization within the city of Cincinnati?
The most, can you read that again?
Absolutely. What would you say has been the greatest reward you've experienced as the first African-American woman in such a prominent organization within the city of Cincinnati? The greatest reward.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. I don't think it's just one. I think professionally, it's very rewarding to establish an employee-first culture. But before that, we were a customer-first culture. And I guess my philosophy is I am all day, every day taking care of the employees. Because if I take care of the employees, they will absolutely take care of the customers. Right? So I'm going to try to do the best that I can to have the best environment, the best technology, the best experiences, the best training, just the best work experience for each one of the employees. And so that's been very rewarding professionally. I think along with that, I've tried to change the culture of the organization so that we can humanize the utility, that we can use the human lens when we're talking about the customer. It's not us versus them. It's we are the community. And if we are the community, we have problems, and we don't want to have problems. So how can we solve those problems? And when we put that lens on the human side of that, then we solve problems differently. You know, we think about how we would be in that situation, and we don't want to have that problem. And so we apply that human lens. So I think professionally, those things have been. Personally, you know, I've almost been in this job as the executive director for almost 10 years, and I still pinch myself every day. It just blows my mind that I have been blessed and given this special opportunity to lead an organization where we provide something that every person needs every day, right?
Absolutely.
Water is life, right? And it
Yes,
just
it is.
blows my mind that I get this special opportunity. And so I'm just thrilled, you know, that I am actually that person, that first woman that's able to do this in the utility.
Yeah. So now I want to ask this in tandem. We talked about the rewards. Now I want to, because I think it's necessary to hear, to lean into what might have been the challenges. There has been a lot of talk, I've heard a lot in the last 5 to 7 years about women, but in leadership, but really recently in the last 6 months. And I'm not going to make this a political thing because it's not, but even more so now having a woman leading, you know, wanting to become president of the United States.
Right.
A lot of chatter about women in leadership. And I could talk about this all day, being in leadership myself. But going from the rewards to what the challenges have been, can you share with us some of those challenges as being not just an African American, but a woman in leadership?
Yeah, definitely. The list of challenges has been long. You know, of course, there's the gender bias, but there's just the basic things. There's the employees refusing to do certain things because, you know, they didn't like your decision, or they say your decision is not made in the same way that the prior, you know, leader who was a male made the decision. You know, they basically want you to take the seat, but lead exactly like the male leader did before. There's the microaggressions. There's the, you know, I ask a question in a room and then they turn to the other males in the room to answer my question. You know, there's the ignoring of my question until a male asks the question. It's the mansplaining. You know, it's just all the craziness. It's the talking slow as if I can't understand what the heck they said, right? I mean, it's all of that, you know, and it's a lot, you know, but you have to figure out how to manage that. And so there are days when I'll be honest, there are days when I am sick of that crap. And it does not work out well for the person who brought it to me that day, right? I clearly just gave them a piece of what they needed to hear. You know,
Good for you.
there are days like that, right? But then there's other days where you know, I'm a little kinder and I'm like, you know, perhaps this is a teaching moment. And I try to have more of those moments. I can tell you that in February of 2020, right before COVID hit, I was out in Anaheim, California at the Utility Management Conference, and I was given a presentation. And the title of the presentation was Courage Over Comfort. And I was talking about a couple things. I was talking about the fact that three things I talked about. At the time, Councilmember Denard had said that she believed we were doing more shutoffs in predominantly Black neighborhoods and white neighborhoods. So I addressed that because we found out that was actually the case of what we were doing. The second thing was that had we not made some changes to our capital improvement program, we would not have considered some new neighborhood characteristics, and we likely would have been doing more projects in only affluent neighborhoods than other neighborhoods. The third thing in that presentation, a number of my employees encouraged me not to speak about, but I talked about we need to have courage over comfort. We need to not be as comfortable as we are and speak up about these microaggressions and how and particularly are treated in the water utility industry. And until we can speak up and have those conversations and not be so worried about how the person who brought the drama feels because we mentioned.
Yeah.
Until we can get over that and have the courage to do that and start talking about it, then we won't change much in the industry. And if that's the case, women won't stay, because the women that I know that are in some of these leadership roles, they're doing 3-5 years and they're out. And so my presentation was all about, you know, pointing out some of those things that have been said. I certainly didn't use any names, but pointing out some of those things as examples, and then talking about the fact that we need to have the conversation as the first step so that we can get past that. And I knew all of what I was sharing in that presentation was going to be hard for a number of people to hear, because at these conferences, it's majority males. And so I gave the entire presentation in rhyme, because I knew that they needed to hear it differently. And if I give it to them differently, they'd likely hear it. And they did. And I had a number of attendees come up to me after that and say, first of all, I've never heard a presentation like this, but I heard what you said. And I have been on the end of telling women after they gave a presentation that it's cute. It's like, you know, or the microaggressions that I give every day. And so I think we need to have more of those conversations. And I think that's how we overcome it. We start to have more conversations about it. We point it out, and then we can help people grow and move past it so that we get to a point where we're not doing that anymore.
Right. So when we are talking about overcoming it, what are a few things, just a couple of things that you could share with us that you do? If it's a thought process, if it's something that you actually say. I like when you said that sometimes people get exactly what they need to hear. How do you combat those things as a woman, those challenges?
Yeah, so we constantly talk about those challenges here in the utility, and I think it's number one, making a culture and an environment that you feel comfortable talking about that, you know. But you often can see when, you know, when a woman has been hurt by something has been said, or you've heard them, and you can see how their body language changes because of something that's been delivered or said to them. And when that happens, number one, I'm going to check on the woman to make sure that she's okay. But you know, I encourage not just me, but other leaders in the utility. You need to have those hard conversations with those supervisors, with those other coworkers, to say, here's what we just experienced, and here's how it hit not only for that person that you were pointing it to, but here's how we also felt too. And that's not acceptable. We have something that we talk about here, and it's called the Water Works way. And so we often say that's not aligned with the expected behavior or the Water Works way. And so in the future, we expect that you will do this because that aligns with it. And so we take the moment to speak directly to the people, to check on the person that, of course, that was on the other end of it, but to speak to them, because we can use that exact example to say, we don't have to talk in generalities. We can use the example to say that right there is not flying, and we don't see it anymore.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. So we're going to go back up into the questions that it kind of flowed seamlessly. So we'll go back up. People are curious to know about your community involvement.
Yes. So I am big on community involvement. I think I drive my employees nuts because of what I expect. But you know, I grew up, my sister and I, in a single mom, you know, and my mom always, you know, she was a teacher and then a principal. And so she always stressed with us, like, you absolutely need to be, you know, involved in your community. You need to know your community, and you need to serve your community. And so for me, and particularly as a water utility, we provide a critical service, right? We're an anchor institution in the community. And so how can we not be in the community? You know, because when we're not in the community, we don't know the characteristics of the people that we serve. And so I'm constantly saying we need to change that. We need to be more involved in the community. And so, you know, I think for us, we kicked it off with me saying, let's get involved more. We kicked it off in 2017 when we were celebrating our 200th year as a water utility. We're the oldest municipal water utility in the state of Ohio. And we had a celebration, and we kicked off a year long of partying for that 200th. But
Wow.
it also kicked off us being more in the community speakers bureaus, attending community meetings, hosting, neighborhood games. We were the official sponsor of the water balloon toss. Like we just got out there in different ways. We used to, prior to that, we would just do a couple events each year where we would bring our water buggy and serve water. I asked the questions, why are we just at the Taste of Cincinnati? Why are we not at the Black Family Reunion or this Kroger Wellness events or Oktoberfest, And so we actually built a float for the parades. And so
Nice.
we that float to opening day. We go to Harvest Home Parade. We're in the 4th of July. We're in the Pride Parade. You name it, we're rolling that float. But to me, it's like, number one, our customers need to see us out there as a different type of partner. And number two, it helps us learn about the 52 neighborhoods that we serve, plus the other 53 municipalities in the region that we serve. We actually serve more customers outside the city of Cincinnati, and we take a pipe under the Ohio River to Kentucky and serve down to Boone, Florence, down to the Florence Y'all water tank. And so a lot of people don't even know we do that, but we have this very large footprint, and we need to know the customers we serve. So we're constantly, trying to be out. And it's not me telling the employees just to go out. It's like, I'm out there too. It's like, I'm the first one that's saying, hey, we need to go over here and check out what's going on this street, or there's a neighborhood and it's a high percentage of people who can't pay their bills. We actually went to a neighborhood last year and knocked doors. We're like, we do not want you to get your water shut off. We're here to understand what's going on. And hopefully we have some resources or some connections to resources that can help you from, getting your water shut off. Like I want us to show up in a different way because we need to be connected to our community. And so we're absolutely out there doing it.
Yeah, that's amazing that you all do that. And just in case anybody on is wondering if there are any opportunities for volunteering at any of the events, might you be able to share that with us later and we can share with everyone?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
great. Awesome. Okay, here is another question. Is there something you did or pursued that you can directly point to that was a pivotal changing moment in your life or career?
Did or pursue it was pivotal. It's probably two moments. There was one moment early on in my career, and early on in my career, particularly when I came to the water utility, it was a little interesting. I had been here for a couple weeks, and they told me that I was only hired because they got in trouble because they didn't have any Black employees in my section. And so that's certainly not the welcome you expect from your job.
No, it's not.
Particularly for me, because it's like I just came off of a whole bunch of years. I was on the long plan at UC to get my chemistry degree, and you're now telling me I'm Black, so I got a chemistry job. It's like, no, I don't think it worked that way, at least from my mind. And so that was an early experience. And so bear with me on this, but so then I was hired to work in a new treatment process that they had, and they wanted to give tours, and they wanted us to be briefed on what to say, but then they got through that, and then they wanted to tell us what to wear, and we needed to dress appropriately. And I remember they didn't describe, what to wear, but they were just like, you need to make sure you dress appropriately. Well, I showed up, I went shopping, I found this sharp two-piece pantsuit. It was Black, it had this funky high collar. I remember it like it was yesterday. I had these sharp patent leather boots on, and my hair was real short, and I would blow dry it and it would spike up. So it was spiked up all over my head. And I had, all my earrings in I had all these holes in my ears, and so I was ready. I was like, I think I'm dressed appropriately. So I show up, and everyone there is in a blue suit or a Black suit with a white shirt, and so the men had on, a tie that fit that blue or Black suit, and the women had on, many of them had on pantsuits, And I remember walking in the room and they all looked at me and it was like, why are you dressed that way? And I remember looking at them like, you all look the same, right? And it was such a moment to me, but it was a deciding moment for me. It was like, you know what? I don't know where this job or any job takes me, but I absolutely will bring my authentic self to what I'm doing. It's like I've been rocking a natural since my 20s. Like I am going to show up fully and authentically every day. You know, what you think I should be wearing is what you think, but it does not translate into what I'm going to be for you. It's like I'm going to be myself. And I think having that moment happen so early in my career, along with what they said to me as far as like you were hired because you were Black, it's like I'm not going to then transform into this thing so you see a vision of what you think I should be. No, you're going to see all of me because I'm going to show up that way. And so I think that was very pivotal for me. I think a second pivotal moment for me came in 2015 with this job. Like I did not fully expect at all to do this job permanently. I was named interim. And again, I had not seen a lot of women lead water utilities. So I really didn't expect that it was, you know, an opportunity where they would pick a woman to lead this role. And so I thought I'll do a few months till they find the right person for the job. I was sitting in church one day and the message was all about, you know, each person is given these exceptional skills. And often we don't use these exceptional skills to the fullest. You know, we fall short of that because we don't dream big enough to align with the skills that we're given, and that we should open our minds and really do more with all the skills that we have. And when I tell you that message slapped me across my face, I came in the next day and applied, you know, for the job. And I had not thought about applying for that job. And so I think that was pivotal for me. But I also said, you know, if I apply and get this job, I am all in. Like I am not half stepping in this job. I know I will be a first. I'm not trying to tippy toe through this door. You know, I was like, I am the storm coming through this door. I will open up this door for many more to come. And I will lead it in a way where, you know, they can see that the diversity can bring many different ways of how you can be successful in this role. And so that's what I've done. And I think both of those moments have been somewhat pivotal in how I've moved through my career and through my leadership opportunities.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that, especially about you showing up and being authentic to who you are, even down to your hair. And that's something that I know a lot of African Americans, not just women, deal with in the workplace. Is, you know, our appearance. I mean, I deal with it myself. Is the picture you saw, I had braids. I'm almost always in braids or my natural coils. Showing up, I wear a suit pretty much every day, but I'm gonna have sneakers on because that's just how I vibe. I'm gonna have on J's, you know, that's just what I do. You know, but I don't think, you know, I am any less professional because I want to wear my natural hair and show up with a suit, but with sneakers on. Because, you know, I mean, I love heels, but when you're in operations and you're all over the hospital, you want to be comfortable doing that, right? So I'm like, well, J's it is. So, you know, I appreciate that because it is important to be, you know, authentically you and not conform to what you think you should look like. Just be true to yourself and go to work and kill it. So thank you for sharing that. So we have some audience questions, and the first one will be, do you feel advancement today is based more on connections or merit? Advancement today, is it based on more connections or merit?
That's an interesting question. You know, I probably could make an argument both ways, but here's what I'll say. You know, I talked about the mentors and the allies. That's connections to me, right? And I think that helps tremendously to have that. I can give plenty of examples, particularly here at the utility, where those that have had those allies and those mentors, those connections have helped ready them for promotional opportunities. And so from that angle, I could say connections matter quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, but merit is enough too. Like both of those are enough. It's like you know, and I'm trying to stress, there's opportunities in the utility. You don't have to have a degree, right? You just need, a skill set, right? But we have 96 different classifications here, and all of those are not degree, and so, that does not always matter. But in this day and age, connections are golden. I think we've morphed into situations where those connections probably matter more than they should. I know for me, um, like to do a lot of things that we now do in the community, it has absolutely been connections. Like, how can I get connected to people to do certain things? So definitely at that level, connections matter a lot. But I think I can make an argument either way, that some of the time, sometimes it's for merit and sometimes it's connections that are more important. But yeah, I don't know that it's one over the other. Other than, the mentors and the allies. I think those types of connections weigh well and do well with helping someone.
Right. So even with connection, getting you through the door, you still have to be prepared enough to carry yourself once you get there.
You
So
do.
connections are very important, but they're not everything.
Yeah,
Right. Would you agree?
I would agree. I definitely would agree there. It's like you can't have a connection, get in the door and just chill out. Like, you still got to do a job. And if you don't have the experience or the skill sets or the willingness to do the job or learn the job, well, those connections didn't mean a thing, right? And
Right.
so you definitely have to walk your own walk and be ready to walk that walk.
Absolutely. All right. Here is another question. Was it scary moving from your role as a chemist to roles like IT help desk administrator and then transitioning into your current role? How did you overcome fear? And it says, if you had it.
Yeah, it was scary, but it was more of a like, I think, it starts with my mom. My mom always told my sister and I, you can do whatever you want, right? So it wasn't that type of a fear. It was just more of a fear of, again, a woman and an African American walking into some of these doors, right? It's like I walked into another door and I had some fear walking in that door, right? Because I was likely one African American, one woman that was allowed in that door. So now I'm going to a new thing and I'm likely one again, and so it's not, I wouldn't say it's a fear. It's just more of an uncomfortableness that, oh, here we are again, that I'm walking to this and I've got to navigate some of those things again. Right. And so I wouldn't say fear. I don't have a lot of fear. Like, I'm that one. Like, I'm like, let's do it, and no means my team always laughs here. It's like, well, we tried to do this project and they told us no. I'm like, okay, well, what's plan B? Because we still got to get to yes. It's like, we got a whole lot of letters in the alphabet that we're gonna run this plan. Like, we got a whole bunch more no's we can get to before we finally get to a yes. So it's like, I don't have that fear that, oh, it's over, or they might say no. It's like, no, that's just one more thing we got to get over, but it's not the end of it.
Thank you for that. Someone is wanting you to share about your work with the lead pipe program.
Yes, so that's my baby. That is like the thing that I went after strong as the executive director in this position. And it was 2015 and I was new in this role, and I'm leaving work or even doing work. I got to the point where I was watching it in work, but I was watching Flint, Michigan unfold, and the pipes that they had there. And it was driving me nuts. It's like, are you freaking kidding me that in this day and age that we are having these types of crises with water in cities?
Yeah.
And when I was hired in 1992, that's when the lead and copper rule had just come out. And we knew here in Cincinnati then that we had lead pipes. There was actually a proposal then to remove them, but we had just built this really big granular activated carbon treatment plant It took many years to get that funded through council. So there was no way in the world they were going to turn back around and give us the rate increases that we needed to remove those pipes then. And so the lead and copper rule was all about water utilities, making sure that you had the proper treatment to have corrosion build up inside the pipes so that the lead would not leach into the water as the water passed through the pipes. So we had that. We had that for years. And so we knew we were reducing lead as much as possible as the water passed through those pipes. But as long as those pipes are there, there's a risk. And so to me, it was like, okay, why are we still farting around with this? It's like, we know what the right thing to do is. And so I told my team, we need to come together and figure out how to do this. And we met probably almost nearly a year, every week, trying to figure out how we would stand it up. Because the problem with it was there was not a program like it in the country. So we didn't have a model. And so, you know, often we would tease and we'd say, we're making this ish up. Like, you know, and the lawyers.
You are the model.
Right. The lawyers didn't like to hear that. They're like, no, we don't want to make stuff up. And it's like, yeah, we're making this up. Like, we've got to make this thing up, you know? And so we did. It's like, we are absolutely going to take these lines out. We're going to have a proactive program. We're going to do whatever we can. We're not just taking out the public side that we own. We're going to figure out how to help our customers take out the private side that they own, you know, and that's what we did. And so we moved forward and we started, the first line we took out under our new program was February 8th of 2018. And we've since been moving to take those lines out. To date, we've taken out over 6,000 of those lines. Last year was the first time we hit 1,200 in 1 year. And so we're happy about that. We're trying to ramp up because there's now a new lead and copper rule revision that says we need to get the pipes out in 10 years. And in order for us to get the pipes out, we have about 35,000 left here in Cincinnati. And so we're talking about nearly 3,600, 3,500 per year for 10 years. And we're doing about 1,200 a year. So we got to ramp up quickly. We got to ramp up quickly and get the work done. And so we're happy about it. We're pleased. I'm definitely excited that we are having this positive impact in our community, not just for now, but for generations to come. We know that the majority of these pipes are in, you know, a lot of low-income, disadvantaged segments of our community, our neighborhoods. So, you know, the North Fairmounts, the South Fairmounts, East Price Hill, Lower Price Hill, Evanston, you know, some of these areas where they haven't seen that type of improvement in the pipes for years, and we still have lead lines there, then we're happy that number one, we're going to be replacing their water mains, but associated with that, we're going to take the lead lines out. So I'm excited and pleased that we could bring that forward, and certainly I could champion it for our team to get it approved and make it happen for the region.
So do you think we'll make the 10-year? Is that so that would that be?
So yeah, I think we will. You know, we definitely have the energy. You know, it's all about the funding, right? So we're beating the streets trying to get the money. We got some money from the federal government, some state programs as well. There's a small portion of our rate increases that goes towards it, but it's a small portion. So it's not, you know, it's not breaking the bank on the rate increase side, but we need to get more grants. And that's what we're trying to do. We've been able to get a couple grants in the state of Ohio. We, depending on, you know, how the election goes, it will determine whether or not we get more money or not. So, you know, I think we all are to this point where we just want this election to be over so we know which way we're going. But for us, it begins because, you know, it could go either way on what funding looks like, you know, with the next election. So we're waiting to see that. But even if we don't get the funding or if funding slows down, you know, like I said, we'll go to plan B, plan C, but we'll keep the program rolling as much as we can because we know that we need to do this work for our region.
Like you said, there's a lot of letters in the alphabet, so we'll keep going till we get there, right?
Right.
So we have another question in the chat. People are curious about what your leadership style is and how you make decisions.
Yeah, you know, I do not have one set leadership style. If there's anyone, I'm more of a servant leader as myself, you know, so I'm definitely trying to ask the questions every day. It's like, what can I do to improve what you're doing? What obstacles do I need to remove? How can I be of assistance? That's my team, my leadership team hears that from me all the time. That's what I, try to foster and live by. I make certain times I make decisions, on my own, but I have a very strong, close leadership team. My deputies, we're usually, in the room, huddled, trying to figure out what to do. So I definitely pull those 4 deputies that I have in, and we definitely make those, those decisions that we need to do. If we're in the middle of a crisis, then I'm making a decision. That I believe in the middle of a crisis, your team needs to see you lead and how you're going to handle it. So with COVID, that was on me. It's like, I'm making this decision. This is what we're doing. This is how we're rolling, and it's important for employees to have messages, directly from the director at that time. And so for a year of COVID, I gave them a direct message from me every day, giving them information, giving them encouragement, giving them tips how to live at home, doing different things of where to go to pick up their mask and their equipment they needed for work, the schedules that we had, all that came from direct messages from me. And so during a crisis, I make decisions very differently, but other times it's, I'm definitely going to stand off and empower my superintendents to do their job every day, because they're the experts leading the 8 divisions that we have. They're off doing their stuff. If they need me, then I'm asking the questions, how can I help you? But it's not me trying to step in any way. So my leadership style, I don't think I have one. It's just, I'm able to adapt to the situation and bring whatever, style is needed at that moment.
One thing I did, I could resonate with, and what I enjoyed hearing is earlier in the conversation, you talked about how you pour into your employees. You think they are most important and not the clients first. And I've been saying that now. I've been in healthcare for over 20 years. And, I remember I was interviewing for a position and they were asking about my leadership style. And, I tell them that I really take to heart the employees, because, we are the people who make the work go round. So they'll say like the patients, because I've been in hospitals, between Children's Hospital, UC, they said the patients are the most important, the patients and their families. And I'm like, well, I disagree with that, because, the people who are taking care of the patients are the people who, are reporting up to us. And they're important, because if they're not okay, they're not going to be able to show up to work to take care of the patients and the families, who then I believe are the next and, important. The people have to be well, and it's not about, really getting in their business. It's surface level, just making sure that your team, team members are good so they can make the work, do, the work. And then you have, I think, a very successful organization when you really get behind your employees and make sure they're important to, that there's, development opportunities and, whatever else they need so they can be great at their job, so they can take care of the clients. So I really enjoyed hearing about that. So, and thank you for sharing that. So
there's a book that, along with my leadership, I read this book every year at least once, and it's called The Way of the Shepherd. And it's a leadership book, and it's like 7 different practices as a leader that you need to do. But it talks about, like, you need to know, it talks about it as if you're a shepherd and your sheep are your flock. But it talks about the fact that you need to know your sheep. You need to know what motivates them. You need to move obstacles out of the way to take care of them. You need to understand their environment at work and at home. And so it speaks a lot to how I like to lead and how I lead here, trying my best to take care of employees first.
thank you. The Way of the Shepherd. I had to take that note down. I love a good read. Thank you for sharing that. Let's see, Mark, do we have any other? We have one last question. I think we are wanting you to share any last thoughts with the group today about leadership or your experience. If there's anything that you could leave with us, what would it be?
I think, particularly for first, I think sometimes we are just so focused on doing the best that we can as a first, right? but we also need to think about our legacy. But more importantly, I think we need to talk about the experiences of being the first. Because it's one thing to have those experiences and you get through it and then the next person comes through. But if you don't talk about what you experienced, what you ran across, how you were treated, the good, the bad, the ugly of the experience, then I don't think we're helping the next generations, understand what it takes and how you can be successful, right? And so I would just encourage people as a leader, don't just hold all of those experiences in. It's helpful to talk about those experiences with your team or with other teams that perhaps you work closely with so that they understand that. And sometimes when you're talking about the good, that certainly is something that we all can cheer about, but they need to know the bad and the ugly too, because by knowing it, it might be something that they can learn from and adapt to or avoid it in the future. But I think sometimes we don't talk enough about those. And so they just repeat it. They keep repeating it when perhaps they don't have to repeat it because we alerted them of what had happened and gave them some tools on how they could overcome it if they ever experience it. And so I would encourage more people to do that. I feel like in the water industry, women, we're definitely getting together more as leaders and we're helping each other do that. And I think if we do more of that across every industry, we probably will be better off as having a more diverse environment where we all are thriving as leadership in these roles, as leaders in these roles.
It is very important to share those experiences. And I don't know if it's embarrassment or frustration that keeps people from opening up about the things that they've endured in their journeys. But I certainly appreciate hearing them because they help to encourage me and to hear things that are very similar to what I've experienced, or maybe something I've never seen before that I could, happen to see in my future, and to have this to pull from. I'm definitely grateful for that. So thank you so much for sharing with us. We are so grateful for everything that you imparted us and is imparted into us today. I hope everyone, I think that was all the questions.
Can I just say one thing though? I am thrilled that all of my leadership journey started with the University of Cincinnati. I am absolutely a proud Bearcat and definitely make sure that people know that I am a Bearcat. But I often reflect on that, and I am very thankful for the experiences that I had at the University of Cincinnati. It started everything.
Well, Cathy, I want to say we do notice the red top coat, and I think I seen a pin. Did I see a pin right there? Oh, okay, I see it. Okay, perfect. There we go.
Yes. Any last thoughts, Maurice or Mark?
Take it away, Mark.
You're muted, Mark.
All right, sorry about that. Just having some complications here, but let me see here. All right. Cathy, thank you again for speaking with us today. Really appreciate all the valuable tidbits that you shared with us.